And Megan Fox here at PJ Media is explaining.
What's tip 4?
Well, don't trust women. I think you just touched on that with your Dancing with the Stars.
You can still love me.
I do. I love you all the time.
Our First Amendment rights are huge. They are very important to me. They should be important to everyone.
Don't be a public official if you don't want to be filmed, ma'am.
Megan Fox.
Yes. Welcome to the live stream today, everybody. I'm Megan Fox. I write for PJ Media, where you can find my columns and broadcasts. I have a podcast every Friday night, so don't forget to sign up for PJ Media VIP subscribership program so you can get my podcast every Friday that is there. And I'll throw that discount code up on the bottom there for you guys. Today is a very special day. I am inviting into the program Cynthia Randolph, who is the mother of Mikaela Haynes. Now, at the press conference in St. Louis this week, a woman stepped forward that I had never heard of before and showed up at the press conference to tell her story. And I'd like to share a little bit of that with you at this time. Cynthia Randolph lost her daughter to the guardian ad litem and court corruption that we have seen play out in St. Louis. And this was in Ripley County. Here's a little bit of that press conference. Oh, I just realized I probably didn't do this right. Hold on. Well, while I'm fixing this, Cindy, she came forward and so did her daughter. She has another daughter whose name is Melissa, who was molested by her stepfather, the same man, the father of Mikaela. This story is absolutely awful, and I'm going to bring you the details of it. Let's start with a little bit of the press conference.
I am the mother of Mikaela Haynes, and I'm her voice because she's no longer with us, because she hanged herself. On November 24, 2018, after her GAO would not help her. She couldn't take it anymore. So that's all I can say.
Now, a little bit about Mikaela. and her case that's very interesting and sad is that I've got a lot of the materials in front of me right now, and I'm looking at a docket memorandum in the Circuit Court of Butler County, Missouri. This is so upsetting. Judge Schock, his name is Judge John H. Schock, who was an associate circuit judge, signed this order, and this order stated, after all other evidence was presented, the guardian ad litem testified that even though she has concerns about Bernice Haynes's failure to fully supervise father's visits in the past, her recommendation is that the minor child be placed with Bernice Haynes. The gal stated that the placement of the children with their grandmother is in their best interests at the time. Now, let me explain something about Bernice Haynes. She's a 90-year-old woman who the court decided to give these children to for no other reason than the guardian ad litem, whose name is Jennifer Williams. Jennifer Williams, is that correct? Make sure I have that right. The guardian ad litem said that that her mother was neglecting their education. Now, this is a common thing that they do. This is a common charge for being able to take children away. Because Cindy was homeschooling the girls, the charge was that she was educationally neglecting them. And this is that when they got put in public school, they all were on the honor roll. I've got copies of her report cards here. So that charge is absolutely false. The other charge, then now the guardian says, well, it wasn't really about educational neglect. I just wrote that down because there were other things that I couldn't write down. But none of the allegations were hotlineable. I'm quoting the guardian here. Jennifer Williams is her name. None of the allegations were hotlineable. Listen to this explanation to take your kids out of your house and give them to a convicted pedophile, because the man involved, his name is Charles Haynes. He was convicted and jailed for sodomy and rape of his stepdaughter, Melissa. And they wanted to give this man access to these girls. So here's the guardian's email, Jennifer Williams. I'm going to read this. Let me be extremely clear, she says. It is inaccurate to say that the kids were removed because of educational neglect. I know Jim was not involved in this case at the time, but here's the timeline. The girls came to meet with me and made some very concerning allegations about the mother, the very least of which was that neither of them had ever finished a full year of schooling while being homeschooled. That was her claim. But she had grave concerns. I was advised by the social worker at the hospital that they had grave concerns about mother's handling of the situation. And this was their placement with the grandmother. The placement with the grandmother concerned her because they were in the custody of a man who was an abuser. Mother was intrusive, obstructive, and threatened to take Mikaela out of the facility, AMA, even though she was no longer a legal custodian at the time. Grandmother was. This judge actually put these children in the custody of a 90-year-old enabler who allowed her son unfettered access to her grandchildren. That's what this judge did, Judge Schock. And because of all of this, and this guardian ad litem, Jennifer Williams, who decided she was going to testify on behalf of the abuser in his criminal trial, Mikaela hung herself. She couldn't take it anymore, and she left a note. Joining us on the program now is Cynthia Randolph. She is Mikaela's mother. Cindy, welcome to the program. I'm so happy to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I appreciate your talking about Mikaela because she needs a voice.
How old was Mikaela when she died?
She was 14.
I got an awful lot of 14-year-old girls who are suffering in St. Louis and Missouri. This is now the third 14-year-old girl, to my knowledge, who was traumatized by the system, and hers is the worst outcome so far. We have Angela Freiner's daughter, Delilah, who's 14, and she's missing, trafficked out of Judge Zellweger's court across state lines. We don't know where she is. We have another 14-year-old child right now, Melissa Hagermeyer's daughter, who's in the custody of the man she says raped her twice. Cindy, I read through all your papers here. I read through your whole case. It shocked my conscience. I want to start with, because this is a very long and complicated case, but I want to boil it down to the most important parts. Tell me how. Let's start with the arrest of Charles Haynes. Can you tell me about when he was arrested, why he was arrested, and what the fallout was of that for your family?
Yes, he was arrested on a Sunday on December 1st of 2013, after my daughter from my previous marriage, my second daughter from my previous marriage, told me in a phone call really early on Sunday morning, about six or so, that she says, "Mom, go get the note out of my overall pocket in my closet and read it." And so I did. And I had her on the phone. She called me back. She says, "Mom, I'll call you right back." And because she didn't want him to know that she was calling me. And so I got the note and I read it, and I was just like devastated. And I called up the Ripley County Sheriff.
What did her note to you say?
Basically said that she didn't really give a lot of details in the note, but that you inferred that she had been sexually molested by my husband. So I had talked to her a little more on the phone, and then I called Sheriff Ron Barnett, who was then the sheriff here. And he immediately set up a meeting with his deputy, Earl Wheatley, who did a very good job, by the way, and helping me with that. And she was on our Gatewood farm working with him, cutting firewood early Sunday morning, because we did like all of our weekend chores, because we were busy during the week on Sunday. So we set up a plan to extract her from the Gatewood farm because it was close to Christmas. And so we told him that I needed her to get to go get him a birthday present, is what the deputy told me to say. And they set up a forensic interview on Sunday, and Matt Manus, he recorded that forensic interview later that afternoon after I got Melissa back out of the Gatewood farm. So he was arrested there later that day, about 4:30, when he came back over the Current River Bridge.
And that day, when you say she made a report to Matt Manus, that was at the Children's Advocacy Center, is that correct?
Yes. He did not do the interview. He was recording the interview. Another lady, Christy Patterson, did the interview.
So she got her forensic interview.
Yes.
What happened after that?
Then, let's see, that was December 1st. The next day, Randy Manus entered as Chuck's criminal lawyer. Matt Manus's dad entered as Chuck's criminal lawyer in the criminal case, and worked very hard to get his bond reduced from $50,000 cash to 10% or surety. And so him and Sigrid, they paid his bond, and then he was released. And, we were scared to death of him because what he's going to do to us after he's been told on. So we fled to Moberly, Missouri, and I was moving there because I had to get out of here because of what, I had no idea they were going to let him out of jail. And so we rented a place in Moberly, and I filed for a divorce on December 10 in Randolph County. And immediately then Sigrid, she went to work. Sigrid Manus, Randy's wife, went to work because she's a lawyer, to hire Chuck, another lawyer in Moberly, named Leonard Gillis, or Gillis Leonard, to get the case. She wanted the case moved back down to Ripley County where her buddies were. And so that's what they did, is they got the case moved down here. And there was a clerical error in my attorney's filings that she prayed for the petitioner to move, or the respondents prayer to be granted. But there was in that motion that she filed to try to stop them from transferring the case, she said that if the case was transferred to Ripley County, that the best interests of the children would be compromised.
And how did Jennifer Williams come into your life?
She is one of Sigrid Manus's buddies. And Sigrid Manus and Randy Manus are both my former attorneys. And
now
Sigrid
that's
Manus,
something that's very interesting that people should understand. Those two attorneys previously represented you in some other case?
Well, like from around 1997 to 2011, I had a business that I ran, and I just, and other things, and I would consult with them about various issues, regarding, just to ask for advice, to what to do. And
well,
so
if you ever paid them as your attorneys, they are legally bound to not ever take up any case against you. That's a violation of the attorney's ethics.
Well, I had a business called the Medicine Program, and we bought a piece of property that Randy and Sigrid Manus did a quiet title on action, and so because they had a title company as well, and so they did do work for the property that we bought.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they took his side on a case against you, because I don't think they can do that legally. So anyway, Jennifer Williams, she was the guardian ad litem. Who appointed her to the case?
Judge Schock appointed her.
And was that happened after the allegation of abuse?
Quite some time after, yes, almost a year or so more after, in the divorce case that Sigrid filed against me as her former client. So that was case number 13 RI.
And let me ask you: is Charles Haynes, was he convicted of the abuse against your daughter?
Yes, he was.
And did he do jail time?
He is right now in the Farmington Correctional Center, and that started on December 12th of 2018.
He's still there?
Yes, he has a 7-year sentence that was reduced. It was supposed to be life, and they let him go down to 7. I guess they dropped the other.
He was supposed to get life. That's a tough sentence for a molester. Normally, they give him very little time.
Like 35 years, I think, with the charges that they had on him, and then
pled down to 7. Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So let's get to the Jennifer Williams, her machinations to take your children away from you and put them into the custody of this man. So he was out. Was he awaiting trial? Is that how that happened?
Yes.
Okay, so he's out awaiting trial. He lives with his mother is 90 years old. Her name is Bernice. Jennifer Williams makes accusations against you. Now I'm looking at her letter where she says, oh, it was not about educational neglect. It was about all these other things, none of them which were hotlineable. She says you were obstructive, intrusive. These are reasons that she wanted to give your kids to a 90-year-old woman who would give unfettered access to a child molester. And we know that she gave him unfettered access because the court acknowledged that she gave him unfettered access and that the court was concerned because of that, but they decided to give the kids to her anyway. How the hell did that happen?
Well, that was in Judge Schock's court, and Jennifer Williams was on the stand recommending that to him. And she testified under oath that there was educational neglect. And that's why the Children's Division understand that the children were taken away from me is for educational neglect. And there is no educational neglect at all with these children. I mean, they have A honor roll.
I've seen their report cards. And not just the report cards, but your therapist, who's a very good man, whose name is Jerry Marks. He wrote affidavit after affidavit stating that her grades are great. There's no educational neglect. He doesn't understand why they did this to you. And in fact, I mean, there are pages and pages of affidavits from this therapist who saw your girls, saw Sarah and Mikaela, and says that, and he writes in here very clearly that there is some kind of conspiracy between the gal and court actors to harm your children. He saw it very clearly, and it looks like that he keeps begging with people in charge to listen. And I've got letters from him all the way back from like 2009 through 2021, begging the court not to give these children to the abuser.
Yes, he has been a tremendous blessing for us and a help. None of the people that are doing what they want to do want to talk to him. They just ignore that he's there. And he's a court-ordered counselor for Mikaela and Sarah.
He's also an expert in child abuse. So I want to read something from Jerry Marks. This is an affidavit that was submitted to the court in 2004. And this really gives indication of what the gal Jennifer Williams was doing to you. So first he talks about Mikaela. She's doing really well this quarter as she has moved to the honor roll at school. She's very pleased with her progress and has been making friends too. She reports to me that the gal has been coming to see her at school. She tells me that it seems odd to her as she did not see this much of her when she was placed in foster care. She also tells me that the gal has brought 2 rounds of gifts to her school from her paternal grandmother and from her dad. She's not sure what that's about, but she finds it unusual. She also reports that the gal has been asking her about her mother's psychological testing. I find this to be more than unusual. Perhaps this is just me being cynical, but it seems to me that she is using her access to Mikaela to put pressure on her about the upcoming trial of her father related to the sexual abuse of her sister Melissa. It seems that I am the one who keeps reporting to you the irregularities of the process. I do not think it would be a jump in logic to say that the gifts are a way to send Melissa a message about her testimony in the case. I also think it's a way to put pressure on Mikaela that she could be going back into foster care if she testifies against her father. I have to be on the record saying that I think what has happened in the last 2 months with Mikaela and the gal is a form of witness tampering. I would like to again state that I see no reason why this case is still open except to give the gal access to the girls before the trial.
Right.
Was Melissa, there seems to be so much witness tampering here and witness intimidation. So Melissa was going to testify against him at trial. So this is all happening before the trial, correct?
Yes, that report was. The GAL he's talking about in that report. Jennifer Williams. So she ends up, and okay, so the she's sending gifts and things to Mikaela, taking them to school from dad, putting pressure on her because was Mikaela going to testify as well? Well, that's what the GAL was telling her, and that was just scaring Mikaela half to death that she was going to have to go to court and testify. I mean, it is a traumatic thing to even think about for her. So the GAL, Jennifer Williams, was using that, coming to school, bringing carloads of gifts. Carloads, bags and bags of gifts from her dad and Bernice Haynes to the school. And Mikaela couldn't even finish her goals for the school day that, when she did that. She had a growth come up on her neck like a huge egg. And I took her to Dr. Bose, the her lifetime pediatrician in Poplar Bluff. And he says that's like a stress thing, a mono stress that she got in while she was in foster care. And it caused her she couldn't even go to school when the GAO would go to school and harass her.
All right, let's talk about the trauma inflicted on them by being put into foster care. How did they get removed from you and put into foster care in the first place? You moved away from the abuser. You left the situation. So you're the non-offending parent. How did you, we know that she accused you of educational neglect, but how did that actually result in the removal of them into foster care?
Well, the grandmother, the perpetrator's mom, who's 94 years old today, she did not protect the girls while they were at her home under court order by Judge Schock and GAL Jennifer Williams' recommendation that she go there. And so Mikaela started to cut herself there and with scratches on her arms. And I asked her when she came for a visit on a weekend, I said, what is that on your arm? And she says, oh, the dog did it. And I looked again and I'm like, no dog did that, you know. And so I took her to because I had to take the girls back. I mean, I'm under court order that they have to be there. And I'm pressured to do this. And so I took them to the Ripley County Sheriff's Department. And the deputy there, Chad Keithley, he looked at her and he didn't want to talk to her. He said, just take her to the emergency room. And so I took her over to the emergency room there. They had the hospital here then. It was Southeast Hospital. And they immediately, when they saw her in the situation, they immediately started proceeding. They called an ambulance to take her up to SSM DePaul in Bridgeton, Missouri. And she was there in lockdown for like 9 days where they were, you know, trying to help her.
Is that where they put her on the medication that had the side effect of suicide?
Yes. And I went there every single day that I could they let you have a 2-hour window to visit with her every day. And so I went there every day that I could. And then one of the hospital, I think social workers or the nurse or somebody came and gave me a paper and they wanted me to sign it saying that they wanted to give her a medication to help her sleep. And I said, well, could I see the side effects of that? You know, do you mind if let me see the side effects of it? So they hurried and printed off the side effects and they gave it to me and I'm reading down the list and it says, I come to suicide. And I said, that's a pretty bad side effect. You know, is there any alternatives that you have that don't have a side effect of suicide? You know, and they like took the paper and left and they never would let me back into the hospital to see her after that. Like the next day.
Goodness.
Yeah, it's crazy. But
so she spent 9 days there, and then when they released her, where did she go?
Well, they had a court order because Bernice Haynes, the judge and the Jennifer Williams and Sigrid Danis and Ted Lacheski, Chuck's lawyer, were all trying to get Mikaela back into Bernice Haynes' house out of the hospital. Well, the doctor was not going to do that because he is seeing that, you know, she's being abused there. And so he said that nobody should get them. And until the court can figure out why they put them in the harm's way, you know, Judge Schock's court. So what he did is put them into foster care. And so Mikaela came out of that hospital into a foster care home, and they sent some driver with her, and they sat down at like the Call of the Wild and met up with the foster people that she'd never met. And so that's what she's coming out of, lockdown 9 days into foster care. And John and Cassie Rideout were her foster parents, and they are really wonderful people, and they really helped us a lot during that time.
That's nice.
Yes.
That's good. But it didn't sound like the girls did very well in foster care. They had to be moved from one home to another. They reported to the therapist that they were very unhappy there, that they just wanted to be home with you. One of the commenters is asking what the name of the medicine was. Was that Remeron? Remeron?
Yes, it was the generic of Remeron. It's Remeron, and it was 15 milligrams. And it's very serious.
How long was she on that drug?
I'm guessing I'd have to check my documents, but I think over a year.
Was she on it when she took her own life?
Dr. Boast had taken her off of that at that point, but it still has the side effects. It still damages your brain.
Right. It's half-life and it stays in the system for a long time. Let's get to the worst part of this, which is that the events that led up to the death of your daughter, Mikaela. So she's in foster care. She's bouncing around. It looks like she comes back to you.
Yes.
They give the girls back to you. When was that?
I believe that was like in May or June of 2017.
I think it was around 2017 is what I see in the record. But my question is, it looks like the state kept custody of them. So they were
Yes.
allowing them to live with you, but they kept the custody of the girls so they could yank them away whenever they wanted to. Was there a reason for the state keeping that custody?
I think that's just how they do it. When they put a trial placement back with the parents, then they keep custody for a while. And then they did take that off just maybe
Okay.
6 months before she did that. But, you know, she's already been through like 4 years of foster care, and she is traumatized horribly by it.
Yes, her therapist says that multiple times in the affidavits to the court, that the foster care system was a disaster for her, and that she would have been much better off with her mother. And that he keeps saying, I don't understand why you don't just give her to her mother. He describes your relationship with them as happy and joyful and fun. And I mean, it's like, I don't know what kind of judge, and Dr. Marks must feel at the end of his rope, because these passionate letters that he wrote to this court seem to have just been ignored. They just ignored him.
Completely.
I mean,
he was on the phone calls for a lot of ST meetings, and Jennifer Williams never even showed up to the meetings. I don't think Jennifer Williams ever called him once, to my knowledge, is what I understand.
Good God.
Like,
All right.
you know,
So the trial then is happening in the background of this. You have the girls, and they come back to you in 2017. They're doing well at school. The doctor says their grades are good. They're happy. They're making friends. Mikaela was experimenting with vegan cooking, and she was learning how to do how to eat healthy and get along at school. And so in the meantime, trial is being they're preparing for trial of Charles Haynes, correct? In Melissa's trial.
Yeah, the sentencing trial. Because
the sentencing trial.
He pled
guilty. Yeah, he pled guilty to multiple counts of sodomy, rape. Mm-hmm. And how old was Melissa at the time of the assault on her?
She was like from, I think, 11 to 14 or 12 to 14 in that time frame.
God. You know, she's a really strong person. She came out at that press conference and told the whole world that my stepfather molested me, and the St. Louis press just ignored her like she doesn't exist. And I'm here to say, I will not allow that to happen. We will not allow her to be ignored. That is outrageous. What the St. Louis press is doing. And I just want to point that out, that Melissa is a brave person, and I believe her. And so does the court, by the way, because the court sentenced this man to prison time for what he did. And I'm tired. I'm sick and tired of people who don't believe children when they come forward. I'm tired of it. I believe her. And we all need to believe and support these girls when they come out. These children, all children, the boys too. We had 2 boys come out at that press conference and say, I was a victim of abuse. You ignored me. The children are suffering. This is totally unacceptable. So let's continue on. I have a message. Let's see. The doctor. So I wanted to ask you this too. It looks like starting back in 2009, were they trying to put Sarah with Charles? Because the doctor keeps writing letters saying she should have no contact with this man. Why do you keep giving her contact? No gifts, no nothing, no don't get. And Sarah's the youngest child. She's in these, according to his records at the time, she was 8 years old, and they were trying to ply her with gifts and all kinds of things to get her in the life of this man.
Really, the thing is that I believe is because he was threatening me. He wants to take the 2 good girls away from me if I don't kick Melissa out of the house and cause her financial hardship so that she'll come begging back to me, want to be home with me. And then if I don't do that, then he'll take 2 good kids away from me. That's what he called Sarah. So yes, back, they're wanting to write now, even from prison, he's trying to write Sarah and his mother and send gifts to them. And I I don't agree with that, and I do not want any contact from this man or his mother to my child that's 12 years old. It's insane, because in his letters that he's writing her, he is wanting to take her to the exact same places that he took Melissa when he molested her.
And the therapist is saying that there's no possibility that this man should ever have any contact with Sarah at all until she's of age and wants to have that contact herself. She should be the one to decide that. And he has begged the court to not do this. So he wrote this other letter looks like to an attorney. I'm not sure why he was contacting her, unless she was a children's services attorney.
No, she is my attorney in the divorce at this point.
Oh, your attorney, Robin Northern?
Yes. Okay,
so he wrote this letter to her that is unbelievable. It is my understanding that the gal who was appointed to the cases of both Sarah and Mikaela testified at trial on behalf of Mr. Haynes. This testimony it occurred is, in my opinion, more than just a conflict of interest and may rise to the level of professional misconduct. Since the entire process of the criminal case was suspicious and may have been the cause of Mikaela's death by suicide, I want to recommend that Sarah May Haynes have no contact with her biological father, Mr. Haynes, until she's at least 18 years of age. I would further recommend that contact with Mr. Haynes would only be initiated by Sarah when she believes she's strong enough. Because, and he says right here, he's going to do whatever manipulation he may try to get her to believe that he is innocent of the charges. And you're already saying he's still trying to contact her from prison, trying to convince her that he's an innocent man. I'm just flabbergasted by this story. It just gets worse and worse. So the Dr. Marks says he believes that this trial and what happened in the shenanigans in this trial led to the death of Mikaela. Can you explain how that happened?
Yes, the day before, the sentencing of Charles Michael Haynes was supposed to be on 11/26 of 2018. Now on 11/23 of 2018, on a Friday, she heard that Jennifer Williams, her own GAL, guardian ad litem, was going to be a character witness on behalf of Charles Haynes for the sexual molestation of Melissa Hogg. And so that devastated her. And when she heard that, she goes, I'm going to hang myself first before I go back into foster care. Because, see, this is what Jennifer Williams had been telling her at school, that she was going to have to go testify at his sentencing, and stressing her out to the max. And I want to show you something here that I found.
Okay.
After she hung herself in her closet, there was a shoebox. I'll show you the shoebox. This was up in her top closet, along with a lot of other shoeboxes. And then when I opened it, I was like, oh my gosh, I just couldn't even believe it. But there was keychains in here, pictures where she's burning him out of the pictures, and she's cutting him out of the pictures. And this is a t-shirt that she used to wear as a little girl growing up, just going to bed, a nightshirt. But it was her daddy's t-shirt. Well, you don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's a camouflage t-shirt and like a dress on her. But this is the shirt, and on it has all these horrible names that he's calling her, like dope, deadbeat, and some words, I don't know if you want on public, but dumb.
Yeah, go ahead and read it. Read it.
And it's a waste of space, stupid, queer, fool, kill yourself, ignorant, freak, dumb, fat, clumsy, fool, slut, pissant, freak, disgusting, incompetent, scum, disappointment, shithead, failure, and nobody cares. That's the words that are on this. And these are the words that he would say to us over the years. So it's like the same things he's telling her, and probably threatening her, don't you tell, of what's going on. Because basically in a FST meeting with Children's Division, she disclosed that he had done things to her foster mom, Cassie Rideout. That's what we found out.
Yes, and it's interesting that Dr. Marks notes in his records that she did not disclose to him, and he believes that's because she knows what happens when you disclose abuse, that you call the hotline, and then the people come and they take you away, and they put you in foster care, and they interview you, and they harass you, and they do all this stuff to you, and you end up back with your abuser. And I thought it was very interesting that he mentioned that, and he also wrote some incredibly eloquent statements to this court about how child abusers get away with what they do. We need more experts like Dr. Marks who will be a part of this court system, who will tell the truth about child abusers and how they behave, and domestic violence. We don't have any Is Jennifer Williams a child abuse expert, Cindy?
Not to my knowledge.
Is she a domestic violence expert?
No, not to my knowledge.
Does she have any special training or anything about domestic violence or child abuse?
I really can't answer all that, but whatever.
I can answer it for you. She does not. She's an attorney who got a guardian ad litem certification that requires 12 hours of training, which has 45 minutes of a child abuse presentation. 45 minutes. That's what she's had.
Dr. Mark said that the first person that a professional should investigate is the victim. And then the victims, the non-offending parent is what he says. He tells all the processes, how it should be done.
Yes, I found that very, very interesting because he says if you interview the offender before you interview everybody else, they will destroy the investigation because of how slick they are, how good they are at manipulation, and he doesn't allow that. He doesn't allow that at all. And I found his writing to be incredibly interesting. In fact, I've contacted him to ask him if he will come on the program to discuss that and his observations in running down one of these investigations, because I think that more people need to hear from an actual expert in child sexual abuse on how to deal with these abusers and how to catch them doing what they do. I've been so impressed with Dr. Marks's writings on the subject that I know that he has a lot of good things to teach people about it, and we need to talk to him soon. So hopefully that's coming up. So yeah, this was what he wrote about. Mikaela, he said, I believe that she is also a victim of her father, but she's unwilling to disclose to me because of what she has been through. And she has watched what her sister has been through with the court process.
Yes.
Mikaela left a note.
Yes.
What did the note say?
It said in there that she couldn't take it anymore, that she loved me and that she loves. I could read it to you. I don't.
If you would like to do that, if you would like to, I would like to hear it. I know that Melissa had quoted from it, and it broke my heart that she had told Melissa basically good luck with the court stuff because I can't do it anymore.
Okay, she just before. Let's see. There's two things here. Okay, she wrote this on November 24, 2018 at 9:58 a.m. and she's put little Mikaela and put it in my laptop because she know I would find it, raising my laptop up. She goes, Dear Mom, I'm sorry for all the shit I've caused in this family, making things worse. I can hardly read this for you. I'm sorry everyone in your life has caused you pain. I'm sorry for not being the daughter you wanted. She's talking about some other things like just not cussing, and she thinks that it's her fault that she had to go up to grandma's house, and that and that's not what it is. She's not a disappointment. None of this was or is your fault. I want you to keep being you. Don't let this affect you in a negative way. I loved you all with my whole heart. I can't keep doing this anymore. Stay strong for Mindy, Melissa, and Sarah. They need you. I hope you find a good man that will treat you right. I know you will. Tell Melissa I loved her, Sarah, and Mindy. Tell them I'm sorry. Tell Cassie who is her foster mom. I said, thank you. Thank you, Mom, for making my life on this flat earth as easy as possible and always doing the best for me. You don't know how sorry I am. Don't cancel court because of this. Keep going on the same track and stay strong. I'm sorry to put you through this, but I just can't. You won't see me in heaven, but know that I love God. I loved you more than life itself. I have to go now. I love you, Mama. She put a heart sign, and then Mikaela. But the reason she said she wouldn't be in heaven is because I've always said that, people that commit suicide don't go to heaven. But, I've probably been wrong about that because you never know what people have been forced to do.
No, absolutely. I thank you for sharing that, Cindy. That is heart-wrenching. And the idea that a guardian ad litem tasked with the best interest of the child would go and testify as a character witness on behalf of that child's abuser, that woman should go to jail. She ought to have charges pressed against her. All of them. Whoever did this, including the judge. How could the judge read these letters by Dr. Marks and just ignore them? There are like 10 of them that say, stop doing this to these children. I don't understand. I don't understand how this happened, but we're watching it happen in St. Louis County right now to other children who are still alive for the time being. And I don't know what it's going to take. Do more children have to kill themselves for St. Louis authorities to say, hey, wait a minute, child abuse cases are not being tried properly. This is not being handled properly. No one is held accountable for abusing children in Missouri.
Well, like Dr. Marks, there's other professionals that said the same thing. There are other good people in the system. They're having to deal with the corruptness and they can't function because there's no help for them, Like Dr. Boast is the girl's pediatrician. He said, give the girls back to their mother. And then there was Scott Foster. He was a counselor that was quartered. And he says, give the girls back to their mother. It's all situational. If they had never been taken away from me for false allegations of educational neglect by Jennifer Williams and Sigrid Manus and Ted Chesky, she would still be alive because she just couldn't take it anymore. Like so many other people can't take it anymore.
Listen to this nonsense that she wrote. I'm going to read more of Jennifer Williams' nonsense, trying to explain herself as to why she took these children away from you in the first place. She ordered 4 psych evaluations on you. Why? Because you passed the 3? Did you pass the first 3?
Well, I've taken 4. So like in this particular case, they were wanting a third one in this particular case, but I'd taken one in my prior divorce. So how does your mental evaluation come back? I think they said that I was codependent, and I would have to read them to refresh my memory. It's been a few years.
I don't know why she needs 4 of these. Why isn't the first 3? Why aren't they good enough? What is she looking for?
Well, she kept talking about my psych evaluations with Mikaela when she would go to the school. And Mikaela was like, right, is she talking to me about your psych evals? She says, well, what are you looking for? And what are you looking for in another psych eval? Mikaela asked her that. Mikaela would tell me this stuff. And, she never could come up with what she was looking for. And she wrote this. She wrote this: if we are going to keep these kids in mom's home and walk away from these girls, I want an updated psych eval to confirm that there's no reason to pursue this. I don't want to walk away without following up on that and something awful happening to these kids, because I don't want to have to explain why we asked for it, let it stall out and never followed up on it when it might have prevented something awful. Yeah, something awful already happened. It already happened to Melissa. It happened to Mikaela, and it was Charles Haynes who did it to them. That's the something awful that already happened. And when she wrote this was on, let me see, the date was 2018.
So she already knew about the rape of Melissa. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. They had a video recording of him self-admitting it. And so the awful that happened is that even though knowing all this, she never said one thing in court about Chuck and what he's done to the girls. Never, ever, ever.
I want to know what she thinks. In fact, I'm going to reach out to Jennifer Williams directly after this broadcast. That's the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call Jennifer Williams' office and I'm going to ask her, what was the awful thing you thought was going to happen to these girls in mom's care that could be more awful than sodomy and rape that already happened to them in dad's care?
Well, the awful thing that happened is that the day before the trial, that Jennifer Williams was going to go testify as a character witness on behalf of Charles Haynes, who she knew was a perpetrator. She knew that already, had a video of him admitting it. I'd given it to her. And the awful thing is that she went to testify and Mikaela says, I'm not going to be, I'm not going back to foster care. So she hung herself. That's the awful thing is because of what Jennifer Williams did. And then they set the trial for the sentencing trial off for 2 weeks. And then Jennifer Williams still went and testified as his character witness. I mean, she's never once said she's sorry for what's happened to Mikaela. She's never once apologized for anything that she's done. She is totally just
Listen to this email is unbelievable. I want to thank you for giving this to me. I read it the whole way home on the plane. When I left St. Louis, I was engrossed in this you did a really good job on this, by the way. And, not many people can be this organized. I mean, you had it bound and everything. It's very good. She says, I understand that none of you have the benefit of knowing exactly what these girls reported to me when I first became involved in this case. And it seems to you like I'm on some sort of crusade here. But the things they reported to me were more than educational neglect. That is simply one of the many things they reported. None of the allegations were hotlineable, but were concerning nonetheless. They ranged from flat-out manipulation by Mother and Melissa, emotional abuse by Mother and Melissa, not having enough food in the home, and being severely punished. Now, wait a minute. Hold on a second. If they did not have enough food in the home, that's hotlineable, first of all. So she's lying if she says they weren't hotlineable. And being severely punished, that's abuse. That's hotlineable. So just right up there, she says none of the allegations were hotlineable. Then she goes on to list 2 allegations that are hotlineable that she never called in.
Well, she didn't hotline the educational neglect either.
Oh, she just took them from you. She just took them from you.
She seized my children from me for nothing hotlineable.
Wow. Wow. Did you ever not have food in the house, Cindy?
No, that is like ludicrous if anybody knows us.
I know. I mean, this
food.
I know. I often say, and no one could accuse me of not having enough food in the house. I mean, just look at me. The idea is,
this is another Charles and Cindy Haynes that she was mixing into all the hotline reports and everything. She was mixing.
Oh, that's great. Oh, so she took. So she's not only malicious, but she's stupid too, because she took someone else's case who has the same name as yours and mixed up the facts. That's the second time I've come across that. There's a guardian ad litem in Cook County, Illinois, that did that to one of the mothers there. They took her kids based on information from another case on another child that wasn't hers. I mean,
that's what they did here. That is exactly what they did here.
Wow.
It's insane.
Wow.
I'm like, I couldn't believe it when I found that out. And I went to the children's division and I talked to them about it. I've not had an apology from anybody for that. I'm like, that's not right.
Well, so, I mean, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, because, it may be confidential right now, but are you speaking to an attorney? Because to me, it sure sounds like you have a wrongful death lawsuit here. I've found at least 6 actionable causes in this case. Are you planning on, or do you have the ability to sue them for wrongful death?
Well, I really need to look into that for sure. I really need to look into that because.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Serious thing. I mean, it's just devastated our whole family.
Oh, I'm
Financially,
sure.
emotionally, and my children, you know, just like my attorney in January 3rd of 2014 said, you know, that the best interest of the children would be compromised if this case was transferred from Randolph County to Ripley County. What do you call it? It's severe compromise. Mikaela's dead. My other children are still hurting terribly from what's been done to them. And, you know, I want to be a voice for Mikaela, and I so appreciate your help in being a voice for Mikaela and anybody else involved, and Dr. Marks and Scott Foster and Dr. Boast, who all have stood up, and Cindy Moses. There's been many professionals in this situation that has stood up, and they've been totally ignored, run over, just steamrolled by, you know, the court, Chuck's attorneys, Jennifer Williams and Sigrid Manus and Randy Manus. Randy Manus came and testified under oath at Chuck's sentencing, saying that he allows his own grandchildren, his own minor children, to be around this man that has pled guilty to child molestation. And he says,
My God. Oh my God. Well, there
And
was
he said
something
he-
that Dr. Marks said that really resonated with me, which was that not only do your children need to be protected from Charles Haynes, but they also need to be protected from the network of enablers around him, including his mother, his sister, these attorneys, the gal, he named the gal as one of those enablers. Jennifer Williams is an enabler of a pedophile. She enabled him. She made it possible for him to have access to girls. Did she get paid for that? I wonder, was he paying her enormous amounts of money for that service?
I don't know. Sigrid Manus and Randy Manus both were also huge enablers in this, because Randy Manus said in the sentencing report that he had never been an attorney or had anything to do with the case, with the Chuck's criminal case, when he had entered in as his criminal lawyer on December 2nd of 2013 in his criminal case. And then he got out after he got him out of jail. He just got in to get him out of jail. And so he was there at that criminal sentencing to influence a public official, a public judge, Judge Parker, into giving Chuck probation instead of prison time. And thank goodness, you know, Judge Parker didn't listen to that.
God. Yeah, this is just unbelievable. This has got to stop. I appreciate you being here, Cindy, and I want to keep up with this case and how it's going. And how are the children, the remaining children? Sarah, you said she's 12 now?
Yes, and she is going to a private school that's called West Point in Donovan, and it has been a godsend. I mean, the people there at that school are just amazing for helping, you know, with her. And she's getting 100s, lots of 100s. I think her grade average is 97% approximately. So there's no educational neglect. It was never that.
No. No. There was never any of that. Clearly, because when they put them in the public school, then they did very, very well, and they were they were on the honor roll and doing very well, having good reports, and so there was no educational neglect, or they would never have been able to keep up with the standards for the grade level that they were entered into. So that is a garbage excuse, and Jennifer Williams knows it, which is why she wrote this email saying, "Oh, it wasn't just educational neglect. Oh no, there were these other things. There were other things." Well, I couldn't outline any of them, but there were lots of other things. Her mother was manipulative. Her mother was this. Her mother was that. I want to know, was the guardian paid? Was she paid by the court or paid by the parents? Did you have to pay her?
Yes, we did have to pay her. I paid $750, and Chuck did too. And then I wrote a letter to her after she was endangering my children and harming them. I told her that she needed to get off the case. And I also told Sigrid and Randy Manus they need to get off the case because of their conflicts of interest. And they didn't listen to them. I mean, that's filed in the court for Jennifer Williams, the guardian ad litem, and she just ignored it. And so the judge ignored it. And, you know, Chuck's attorney ignored it. They just steamroll you.
That's exactly right. And that is what we're finding all over St. Louis County and all over Missouri. We're finding that these courts are steamrolling parents. Cindy, thank you so much for being here. Cynthia Randolph, mother of Mikaela Haynes. We will not let Mikaela be silenced. We will continue to talk about what happened to her. And we hope that it will be a catalyst moving forward to create some real change in Missouri about how children are abused. Thank you so much, Cindy, for being here.
Thank you for being our voice.
All righty. We'll talk to you again soon. And coming to the program now is investigative journalist Michael Volpe from Chicago. He is here with us to discuss all the updates and everything else that he's got on this case and other cases as well. Mike, did you get a chance to listen to any of that interview?
I got a chance to listen to some of it, though I was busy for other parts of it.
What are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is, again, it's so breathtaking, the amount of like totally outrageous, like shocking cases. And it's like, look around, like we started with Angie Freiner, with a 14-year-old being trafficked, and it's like
and
that
now there's dead kids, and there's
right, and that's almost like
and murders. I've got a murder Theta person. I just wrote about her yesterday.
Right.
Her son was murdered by the molesting abuser, and
Right.
and this is all happening in the same county or the surrounding counties.
Right, that's correct, and we're only 2 months in. How many of these stories do you think we're going to find?
There are a lot.
So that's
clearly
that's my first thought. The other thing, I think this is the Guardian ad litem's name again.
Jennifer Williams.
It's never came up before, right?
No, this is the first time.
So see, that's also we there were 38 of them on that call.
Oh, I forgot to add. What?
We're still finding more and more outside of the 38.
Hold on a second, Mike. Cindy,
you think she was on?
Wait a minute. Cindy's still here. Cindy, yeah. I'm bringing you back in because I just realized I forgot to ask you something. I'm so glad you're still here.
Yes.
I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you a video clip, and then I want you to explain to me what you're seeing here, okay? Because we haven't been able to explain it yet, but I think you're the one who knows what is happening here. I'm going to go to the Guardian ad litem, the leaked video. Right. Hold on, let's see, stop screen, share screen. I'm going to go to the leaked video, and I have, I want to play a clip from you, and then 2 clips, and then I want you to tell me what you think about this, because I believe that Sharon Remus and Sarah Pleben are referring to your case. Well, I think that's what it is. Maybe not.
Sarah Mahler sent several of us an email saying her client in a paternity case was sent something via U.S. mail about this. So how did somebody get into the court record on something that should be closed? Hank and I did this just this morning, a test. And when you're a lawyer and you...
All right, now we're going to go to 903 where she talks about it again. Here we go.
In Sarah Mahler's case, the plaintiff's attorney called...
So yes, and I will tell you, Larry got the call from the other attorney, so he could give you more details, Sarah, if after this call you even wanted to call Larry and get more information. I actually called, I knew Judge, because I've been involved with this, and Judge Burton, with the email that you sent, I put a call into Judge Burton so he could look into that, and I haven't heard back from him yet. But when I talked to his clerk, she's like, he is so overwhelmed with everything that, so I have information about that. I can get that to you after the call, but the attorney actually called the other counsel and kind of left a nasty message that they do have say. So that may be also something they...
All right.
A nasty gram, if you will.
I'm so good at the screen stopping too. Look at that that screenshot. Oh, yeah. Cindy, do you recognize what they are speaking about here?
Not for sure. I couldn't say for sure, but
they thought that.
What do you think? What do you think it is? What is it possibly then?
I can't say there, but on 40 in the time stamp like 40.33, Sarah Marler is mentioned, and Chuck's attorney, Charles Haynes' attorney, the child molester's attorney who's in prison, is Carrie Smith, and she, I believe, is related to Sigrid Manus. But the Sarah Marler law firm is definitely involved in my case, and they're talked about on this video here.
All right, you want me to play this part at 4033?
I think Sarah Marler told me that. Like some of these were some outstate people that they had found. And apparently they're sending it to Kansas City, Columbia, Jeff City. I don't know if it's getting any traction out there, but apparently this particular.
So you know who Sarah Mahler is. She's connected somehow to your cases as well.
Yes, she is my husband's lawyer, our ex-husband, soon-to-be ex-husband's lawyer, her law firm. So they are definitely connected in this situation.
You mean when you say your ex-husband's lawyer? Are you talking about Charles Haynes?
Well, he's not my ex yet. Yes, I've been trying to get a divorce from him.
So she's the molester's lawyer, Sarah Mahler.
Molester's lawyer, yes. And
holy crap! Okay,
another attorney in there. Ramona, I believe is her name. I'd have to look again, but yeah, there's two attorneys from there that are the child molester's lawyers. So that's Sarah Marler's law firm that's mentioned in this.
Okay, so here's what's interesting. Here's what's interesting to me about that as well. So now we have evidence that these guardians, who we thought were mostly St. Louis, they're connected to all the guardians from all over the state, and not only that, they are talking about cases with Judge Michael Burton that are not in his county. This is a Ripley County case. Sarah Mahler is in Ripley County. She's doing this. So he is having ex parte communications, and Sharon Remus just admitted it, that she called Judge Michael Burton to talk to him about this Sarah Mahler deal and, to find out what he had to say. So now we have the presiding judge communicating with God knows who in other counties. I think we need to find out what the presiding judge in Ripley County, his name is David Swindle, of all things. It's like something right out of Dickens. His name is David Swindle. And also Judge John Schock. We need to figure out what are the connections between John Schock, David Swindle, and Michael Burton, because they appear to be pretty chummy. If he knows what's going on in their courtroom, what does he have to do with any of it?
Right.
I mean, incredible. Cindy, thank you for that. I'm going to, do you have anything else you wanted to talk about with this video?
Well, I think the presiding judge here in Ripley County is Michael Pritchett. So
is that new? So Swindle used to be the presiding judge. So he was on the documents.
Yes, he is. I don't know why he's on those documents like that, because I may just not understand something.
Yeah, he's on the documents listed as the presiding judge, but maybe he was just an acting judge. Who knows? All right, I'm going to put you back in the green room, and we're going to continue doing it. And if we pop, we might pop you back up here in a minute if you have time to hang out. All right, okay. Thanks, Cindy. Thank you. So that's interesting, isn't it, Mike?
Mm-hmm. It is, absolutely. That Zoom conference, we're going to be digging through that in ways like that for a long time. For instance, they refer to something that happened with Hank. It's Hank Miller, and I'm not sure exactly what happened, but hopefully we will find out. Hopefully we will have someone like your current guest, a Jane or John Doe, who will say, well, here is what they are referring to, and we'll get the whole story on that.
Okay, we're always looking for people who have inside information on what happened on that leaked Zoom call. Right. We're always looking for people who know the inside story, because there's a lot of things going on in there that they're talking about. Hank Miller, by the way, there was some kind of text attack on his phone or something to do with texting. So if anybody knows what happened with a guardian ad litem Hank Miller, we would love to have that story.
Right, and if you are one of the people that Sarah Pleban was referring to, where she's like, I've got a mom who doesn't like me, she doesn't like me, period, blah, blah, blah. If you think you're that mom, please step forward. There's all sorts of points in that video that we'll be looking at for a very long time. It's a bevy of information. It's almost unimaginable how much that can be exploited, and how much we will exploit that for a very, very long time.
A very long time. So what's going on with you today?
I wanted, first of all, I referred yesterday to a police interview with a woman named Kelly Coughlin of the Lakeville, Minnesota Police Department, as she questions a girl named Samantha Rucky. And because I thought of it on the spot, I didn't have it available. It's going to go for like 40 seconds. This is so amazing. So this girl is going to testify in a month at her mother's trial. Her mother's being tried or tried for like a very like unusual crime, because most states don't have it. So her ex had custody time. The two girls ran. She helped hide them, and because she knew where they were the whole time, she was being charged with, it's called parental deprivation, because he was supposed to have custody time and he didn't. And so this detective will ask Sammy, as she's called, to differentiate herself from her mom. So whether or not she
let me
is
get that up on the screen.
Right. So that she is wait, that's not that's not the right one. Hold on one second. I'll get it. Yeah, no, that's another one. So hold on. So
all right, hold on, I'm gonna take it off.
So she's going to ask her if she's there of her own free will or she's being coerced, and just listen for the answer. So this is so amazing. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on one second. Oh, hold on. You know what?
These people are something. I mean, they want to, I can't believe the level of intimidation and coercion that we've seen going against these children. I don't know why they feel so empowered to coerce children and coerce, minors, but it's really upsetting. I mean, reading through the Haynes case, Haynes v. Haynes, it's just unbelievable with the amount of coercion and intimidation that they subjected these children to over and over again. To force them into the care of an abuser. It's just, and yet this seems to be a playbook, Mike. This is what they do. This is the pattern that we found.
This is the same pattern in the Rucky case, and the Rucky case is the poster child for all of it. Not only that, but it's the poster child for how far the system's willing to go. They were willing to charge the mother criminally for the situation they started, by forcing these kids into an abusive situation, by claiming it was parental alienation, by ignoring all evidence of abuse, of which there was so much, it almost makes you sick. And again, it's the same pattern as you heard from St. Louis. You'll get an investigation, but somehow it's never enough to make it so that it stops what's happening.
No, it's not enough. In fact, it escalates what's happening. They make it worse. They make the abuse situation worse by giving the abuser full access to the children. And they do that to punish you for coming forward for saying there was abuse. Okay, here we go.
All right. So
if you put it in theater mode, it's much bigger on the screen.
Yeah. All right. So hold on.
Not full. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Said I have to, and I have to be here, and I have to recant everything I said, and that's the way it's gonna have to be. They made me feel really guilty about not doing it. They started crying. Who's they? My dad and Tammy.
Well, I just want to make sure that you're not here against your will. Okay. I don't want to make you say anything that's not true, and I just want the truth.
What she just said. She just said, they basically made me say that I had to recant, and they said that I had to do this, and then they were making me feel guilty, and then they made everyone started crying. And what?
Right. Her testimony a month after this particular interview was absolutely critical to convicting her mother. The judge only allowed 6 questions. This video was never played. The jury never knew that she was being coerced this way. And appeals courts all throughout said, this is perfectly fine, what you watched. Not only not allowing this in, but the coercion itself. And also, how about flashing the gun for good measure? That gun is in the entire...
That officer should have immediately at that point stood up and left the room and said, this child is here under duress. We won't be doing this.
That officer knew that child was under duress because she was contributing to it. But so I wanted to show that, and I got another Rucky case update. Now, there's almost nothing I enjoy about this job more than when I see that I live rent free inside the head of a judge. There's almost nothing. So I got to get this update. So you didn't share this with me, but you got an email from the person who I call my troll.
I never got it, or I deleted it.
Well, I'm having trouble believing that because it says Megan Fox.
Yeah, I know.
This guy's name is Terry Dean Nemmers. We won't go through it. He's my troll, but he did. I wanted to read right here from this court.
See that block of text? I delete anything anyone sends me that has a block of text like that.
Now,
I don't read that.
This is from a judge named Jerome Abrams, and he's doing like a civil case. And David Rucky, because he's been catered to. So you see this, right? You can see now. I also want the record to reflect. You see that or not? Okay, yeah.
It's just really small on my screen, but yeah.
Right, I'll read it. So he's doing a civil case now because David Rucky's now suing everyone for keeping his kids away from him. And he's making lots and lots of money, millions apparently, just from lawsuits. And you see Miss Elliott, that's Lisa Elliott, who has been along for the ride the whole time. But here we go. Now, I also want the record to reflect that I keep getting contacted by an individual who I think his first name is Michael. I don't know. I am constantly deleting emails from some fellow. I don't know if you're getting these contacts as well, Miss Elliott. I think he's a person that's left over from that kind of prior unhappy litany of parcels of cases involving Miss Grazzini Rucky, Miss Ebevold, and others in their community. And I've had this fellow send me a note. Somebody told me that his position was that this case was canceled for today, and obviously I have never done that. So have you any communication with anyone, whether it's Mrs. Ebevold or anyone else, about this trial going forward today? Now, Lisa Elliott. The only communication I got is I received the same email from, his name is Mr. Michael Volpe, then she spells it correctly. And yes, he lives in Chicago, and he seems to have taken this case, taken a life of its own in his world. And I think are now on his service list along with 50 other people, and I am included on that. Anytime anything happens to anyone in this world, including Deidre Ebevold, Sandra Grazzini Rucky, or any of the other players, he gets wind of it and posts, and he does interviews and then sends that information all out to everybody. And so she goes on. So basically, I want to make sure we're all clear. They stopped a hearing so that this judge could say that he's received a lot of emails from me. All right, so, hold on. I want in the spirit of transparency. This hearing, I think, happened in January of 2020. So in the spirit of transparency, let's see just exactly how crazy I got with this judge. I did send him a few emails, but I don't know.
Couldn't have been that many.
Right. So here we go. Is it coming up?
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know. It's 5'4", 5'5", 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", 5'14". Yeah, but here, I interview. The fun here's what's great. What Lisa Elliott said about me, that's totally true. But also, do you see how they're all blind carbon copies? So Lisa Elliott is like blind carbon copy, but she said about 50. It's around 50.
So are they all talking to one another to figure it out?
If they are, Lisa, if you have figured out who else is on this blind carbon copy email, thank you. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd do. I was hoping you would spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out who else was getting them.
Who else was getting them, yeah.
Right. So hold on. So let me just show you. Let me get one more update. Now we're going to go to a hearing from 2018 with a woman named Jan Davidson, also in the Rucky case.
Is that the one that I had up already?
No. We'll talk about that in a minute.
It's a different one.
Hold on 1 second. So, oh yeah, no, it's here. Okay. So this comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're going to go to page 10. Wait a minute. Hold on 1 second. I think I got. Oh yeah. Hold on. It's this one. All right, so page 10. This is a hearing from August 2018. All right, so that he receives documents And then Mr. Volpe is not an associate of me. This is hearsay. This is a claim by Elliot. Once again, Lisa Elliott is talking about me. All right, man. Have you provided these documents to Mr. Volpe? I have not. All right. Just to clarify matters, this is Jan Davidson. Mr. Volpe has been sending emails to the court as well. I have not been reading them. I have been forwarding them to my supervisor, who's been forwarding them on to authorities that look into such information. All right, the authority.
What authorities?
I don't know, because
do authorities now? Authorities have to look into your emails, Mike. That's
right. But hold on. Let's see how many emails. Let me get this up. So let's see how many emails I sent to Jan Davidson. So I think this is good. And this hearing happened on August 7th, 2018. So if I remember correctly, I hadn't sent her one in over like a week and a half.
No, so, a whole week.
Right. No, it was, well, no, but look, so here, so, right. It was 2018. I think right there. So, no, maybe not. I sent her one the day before. All right.
How dare you? How dare you send too many emails? How dare you?
It's so great that my emails to judges come up in court hearings all the time, even though they have nothing to do with anything.
They get very, but see, this illustrates another point, though, that they get very concerned and nervous and worried when the press is paying attention to what they're doing. And I think that that's really the material point here, is that they need babysitters. They need us watching over what they're doing, because they're destroying people's lives under the cover of darkness, and these concealing things, and secret courts, star chambers. They need to be watched, and clearly we're up for the job. So we'll do that.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you, and it is a sign that they don't like being watched. They don't. No,
they hate it. Look at how he's forwarding your emails to his supervisor,
and
who's forwarding it to authorities.
Right, whatever that means. Who have never, and you want. By the way, if you wonder why I send Nicole Zellweger emails like, this could be bad for your career, because I developed all that in the Rucky case, and it works.
Because
I've got judges.
They hate it.
Yeah, no, I'm number one. I'm in their head, but you just took a minute out of the day to say that I receive emails from Mike Volpe, but I don't even open them. Like,
you put it on a court record. Put it on a court record. He doesn't read his emails.
No, but hold on, but not from one judge, from two judges. All right, so
it's good stuff. You need to put that on your resume.
Right, I get inside judges' heads. The other update is, after yesterday, I got some stuff about Middlesex County. That's in Massachusetts, and so it was a judge who initially it looked like I was going to be allowed in, and then they said, "Oh no! If you show up in person," I was asking for Zoom. Presumably, if the person's asking for Zoom, in person isn't likely. So so at the last minute they pulled it back, but. They sent me, this is a recent, and actually we can talk about this because this can lead into Missouri. This is like a recent nomination hearing for someone who wants to be a judge. And there's a guy named Kennedy. He's a male guy, right around like 107.40 he starts. He talks about probate, which is interesting. In Massachusetts, probate includes divorces in custody.
Is this the one that I have already up?
Yeah, okay. And so, right around 107.46, and if we can go for about 6 minutes, this is pretty interesting.
107.46. Okay, here we go.
So this is his views and the judges of the family court system in Massachusetts.
The probate court is a train wreck. With the exception of perhaps Counsel Juvenville, I'm the one who spends the most time in court, which means I get the most complaints about judges because of what I do. I've been doing it for about 11 years, so I voted on a lot of judges. Most of them I get good reviews on. The ones I get bad reviews and some really bad ones on are the probate court. Are you familiar with what a bill of address is?
I can't say that I am off the top of my head.
A bill of address is a bill filed in the legislature to remove a judge from office or a public official from office. It goes through the legislature in the same manner as any bill that would go through. There's two ways to remove a judge, either impeachment or a bill of address. About 2 weeks ago, a bill of address was filed in the legislature against a probate judge. There were a number of litigants who appeared in front of her who petitioned the state rep from that area to file a bill because of the bias that that judge had shown against litigants right from the outset. And the demeanor of that particular judge. Have you been in front of probate judges like that?
I would say that I've had the pleasure in Western Mass of being in front of some very good, as I said in the beginning of my presentation, empathetic, caring, compassionate judges.
Okay, have you been in
I've been
front of
very
any
lucky.
bad ones? I have in court.
I can say at the beginning of my career, perhaps there were some that did not have as much in terms of patience. And
You're being very, very polite.
I'm trying.
I'm not talking about patience. I'm talking about bias towards one litigant or another. Have you been in front of judges that you felt just simply weren't fair and had a bias for one side or the other? It might be a pro-mother bias, pro-father bias, or in a particular case where they clearly showed a bias against one side or another.
I wouldn't say bias. I think I was referring more to temperament.
Okay. The biggest complaints I get are the probate judges in the probate court, and I get a lot of them. Okay. Some of the people I know and respect that I voted for. The biggest complaint I get is the manner in which trials occur. And by the way, how many trials have you done from beginning to end?
Say between 20, 30, but I will, with a caveat to that, say that in the probate court context, we have numerous evidentiary hearings on a regular basis for contempts.
I'm aware of that.
And they are almost like mini trials, but as far as full, complete trials, to answer your question, between 20 and 30.
Were they divorce trials?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the biggest complaint I get about divorce trials especially is the length of time that they take. And I bring this up with almost every probate nominee that comes here. And it falls on deaf ears because they go and do the same thing. And I sat down with somebody last week who just got his decision on a divorce. I'm going to talk to you about that. He has to sit down with me in a few minutes. But they start a trial September 1st. They go 3 or 4 hours. Okay, I have other work to do. We have to continue this. Come back on December 15th. They come back on December 15th. They go a couple of more hours, or the case gets continued because the judge isn't available. They come back February 15th. Come back to a few more hours. They come back May 15th. Is that the way they operate out in Western Mass? Because that's how they seem to operate here.
That can happen.
Okay. Why? There's not a single good reason that when a case starts, that it can't go from beginning to end with that judge. One day after
Megan,
the
we
other.
good? Let's.
Can you think of a single reason?
Yeah. So
I think
hold on, let
what,
me, I have to get
sometimes
back there.
happens is there's
I don't believe her, by the way, that she's never experienced bias. with the
right now,
judge.
she's trying to be really careful because she doesn't want to tick off her future colleagues. But
Yeah, I don't believe her.
By the way, I've heard a lot of that. I'm working on a pretty big thing with that, where the trial started in like May of, I think, 2013 and ended in July of 2014, because exactly what he did, except they wouldn't like adjourn it for 2 weeks. It'd be like a month and a half later, and then they'd get another day done, and then another month and a half, and then suddenly the whole entire trial lasts over a year.
Jeez.
Can you imagine them doing that in a criminal? Can you imagine like the OJ? Oh, we've done 3 days of trial. We're going to take a little break.
Take a
Come
6-month
back.
break.
Yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks.
Right.
Finish up a couple more days, and then we'll be back. Totally shocking. And what did he say? Probate is a train wreck.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And one other thing. So the bill of address to get rid of the judge, her name is Abby Ross, and she is, the middle sex version of Nicole Zellweger, the notorious judge, the same kind of bias, but basically we wherever we turn, we're finding evidence of the same kind of corruption.
I know,
not
in
just
every
St.
state,
Louis.
in every state.
Right,
It's not just
right.
Missouri. Everyone's like, what's going on in Missouri? It's like,
But
no, it's
it's,
everywhere.
It is absolutely everywhere. If I dig deep enough into Middlesex, what do you think is going to happen?
Look, we're going to go back to what
and-
Judge Judy said. Judge Judy was a practicing family court judge in New York. She said it's a dumping ground for morons and political hacks. These are the people who get favors. You know, they do the political work for so-and-so, and so they get an appointment or they get nominated or whatever, but they don't have any real judicial experience. They certainly don't have any real knowledge of the law. These are people they can't put anywhere else. So they stick them in probate courts. This is just strictly to appoint people as awards for what they did for them politically. That's how we get stuck in a situation like this, where these judges are not qualified to be doing what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing.
One other thing, and this goes to what you were watching, it's the process. So in Massachusetts, there's something like a governor's council. And I don't know exactly how it works, but judges aren't directly elected. They're not even really exactly appointed through the legislature. There's through this body. Doesn't that sound a lot like what we learned happens in Missouri? So
well, in
explain to the audience
now, in only 6 counties. Now, this is very interesting. We've learned more about it since we came out with this. So Ken Rosa from the Fathers' Rights Movement posted on Facebook the other day about what we learned in the senator's office. So we learned that in 6 counties in Missouri, and St. Louis County being one of them, and I can't name the others off the top of my head, but in 6 counties, the Bar Association sits on the council with 4 votes to the governor's 3 votes. The governor only has 3 votes for, and whoever the bar decides to nominate.
Is that some rule, a law? What will that
It's in the Constitution of Missouri. They wrote themselves into the Constitution. The Bar Association actually appears in the Missouri Constitution, and that's why it's so hard for them to get changed. They cannot get it out of the Constitution without having the entire population vote on the ballot against it. And every time they've tried twice. The Bar Association pumps $75 million into campaigns against it, and then the people of Missouri are too, I don't know, they're just bowled over by that $75 million advertising, and they don't understand that they should be voting for removing the bar from the Constitution. It's insane. The governor is the only person in the state of Missouri who's the duly elected governor of the state who should be able to choose and appoint judges because he's accountable, you see. They are allowing an unaccountable, unelected board in Missouri to choose judges in 6 counties. If you don't think that that's affecting the problem, it is, because all those counties, that's where the majority of our complaints are coming from.
I don't know if it's exactly that way in Massachusetts, but it sounds like it's actually pretty similar. But look, that's not a panacea. In the state of Illinois, they are elected, and go read When Corruption Was King, and you'll learn that the mafia, the outfit, figured out how to get all the votes out. So if you wanted to get elected, you had to work with them. So suddenly the mafia becomes the kingmakers. And they were.
Election of judges, by the way, it's not a perfect, it's not a perfect system either. I would prefer to have the governor do it because.
Well, so in New Jersey, that's what they do. There's a notorious judge out there named Paul Escandon, 200 women with the same MO. I won't go through it, including one whose ex-husband was a capo in one of the 5 families who is now in witness protection. He had supervised visits. By the time it was done, Paul Escandon had given him sole custody because she moved out of his county. He had a scam going that he would take their homes, and I believe he was profiting on the back end. But that's not. And then in Minnesota, it's written into the Constitution that a judge is elected, and yet here's how it normally goes. Judges, like they start being judges, and then rather than filling the entire term, they'll retire. And then the governor will appoint someone to fill the seat. And then when the election comes up, they almost never run with any opposition. So for instance, in the previous election in November of 2020, out of, I think, 129 judges, 3 had opposition. The previous one out of 108 had opposition. And the biggest part of the scam is you then want to become a retired judge, because then you can work part-time as a retired judge. You can get other work and you get your pension.
Well, we've seen that scam in Missouri too, where the retired judges from the 21st Circuit just go work at jams, and then they get the judges to appoint to demand that people use them.
Right, but you ask, why would a judge retire so often? Because that's the goal, is to be a retired judge. And as I pointed out, I think her name is Ann McKinsey. So I watched this lady as a retired judge, do a bar hearing against Michelle McDonald, with whom I wrote a book. So the whole time I'm watching, she's got the background of her house. Stunning. Awesome. Judge, you did well. So just as a retired judge, seems like she's doing really well. So
all of these people are doing really well. I've seen the homes that these people, the guardians ad litem that they're living in, are $900,000 homes, $700,000 homes. They're driving very expensive cars. They're taking lots of vacations. I believe one of the victims who we talked to said that her attorney took her guardian took 2 or 3 vacations during the time that she was shelling out the thousands of dollars to keep her child, which was taken from her. But her attorney got to go on 3 vacations during that time with her money. They all live very, very well, while they profit off the misery of broken families.
Yeah, it's generational wealth. And it is
redistribution. It's redistribution of the wealth. Yep.
As Ken Rosa pointed out, I wanted to say one other thing, because I thought of it and I kept forgetting to say it. Brad Furco.
Yeah.
If I put it on Facebook Live, and I don't want to say one thing about Facebook Live. The entire press conference. Because you had, I think, his highlights as he was speaking.
No, I put his entire. I didn't edit.
Oh, then you're gonna watch his on your thing you did. He as he was speaking, especially as he got going, I felt like he was almost perfect as at least part of what I'd imagine would be an opening statement for one of these folks as they're accused of RICO. He really boiled it down.
I know, he's very good at that.
Right. And I imagine
that's what you get when you spend years as a CEO of a huge company.
So if you want to understand what I mean by RICO, I think he boils it down, because he says
extortion for profit, and
they label you, but that's just they claim that's why they're doing it, but that's not why they're doing it. And that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
If you know that someone isn't a perinatalionaire, if you know they don't have borderline personality disorder, if you're willing to skirt rules, like ignore MMPI, like ignore all contrary evidence, share their private information, if you're willing to do that, that's the trafficking. And that's basically the same argument he was making. I imagined in there somewhere a prosecutor might say something as Brad is saying, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we intend to prove through the witnesses that we call that the defendant, James Reed, knew that Evita Tolu did not have borderline personality disorder, that he knew all of these things, that the scheme was designed to falsely label her and to traffic the child from her care to her ex-husband's care.
Yeah, I can't wait for that trial. It's going to be fantastic. Anna Marie wants to know if the gals are required to disclose financials as judges are. I don't know the answer to that question. Are you aware? I don't think they are either.
Right. I don't think they are. They are basically like court appointees. They're not required to disclose almost anything. And there's a commenter on the PJ Media that thinks that you could. God. And remember, I
can't even with that guy. I can't. I know who you're talking about, and I can't even.
He's obviously not watching the StreamYard, because we've been the live stream of the StreamYard, the live stream, because we've actually been talking about this in North Carolina.
Why are you writing about this? Why don't you just go to the Attorney General? Oh my God!
Yeah, this is all happening, but no one thought of.
No one thought to go to the Attorney General. Sir, we've been to the Attorney General. We've been to the OCDC. They were caught on the tape, you dummy. I mean,
but also he's like, well, then why don't you expose him? And I was like, well, I'm sorry that the investigation has not proceeded at your pace.
Yeah, I'm sorry that we're not taking our orders from random commenters. Stay out of the comment section, Mike. It's a mess down there. It's a total mess.
Right, but be that as it may. Hold on, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about before?
I don't know. It doesn't matter.
All right. Yeah. No. I think it probably doesn't. Okay. So I think that's the updates, and I don't know. You've gone for a while.
I know. I know today's been a long one because I wanted to get Cindy's story in here, and thanks to her for being here. We sure appreciate Cindy Randolph, and we will not allow Mikaela's story to just fade into the background. We will not allow that. We're going to hunt this down as long as it takes. And in fact, right after the program, I'm going to reach out to Jennifer Williams, guardian ad litem of Mikaela Haynes, and I'm going to ask her to comment on this interview and what and her writings that she and the fact that she tried to put this child with an abuser and allowed him unfettered access to her that led to her death. And I'm going to do that today, and I'll let you guys know how that goes.
Okay.
Alrighty, Mike. Keep up the good work, and we'll be back
Okay.
probably next week. All right,
Very
everybody.
good.
Take care.